Take it away. I might sit down.
Hi everyone, I was expecting no one, so this is very daunting for me. I'm not the greatest public speaker, so we'll do our best. Before we start, I just wanted to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land that we meet on today. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present. So we're here today to talk about freelancing, networking, I guess my transition for the past 10 years going from TAFE, curtain and all through to industry. Before we do that, I just want to, I guess, acknowledge and say that my presentation, there's no fluff, it's all transparent. I'm going to be completely honest and blunt with you, because when I was at TAFE, I found there was a lot of talks and industry knowledge that was very fluffy, it was very happy and like industry is going to rock, it's going to be amazing, but it can be incredibly brutal if you're not prepared for it. So I myself am going to be incredibly brutal and be completely transparent with you with my journey that I'm not very, it's not public knowledge to say. But before I get into like my tips and some insights into my career progression, I just want to talk a little bit about me and how I developed my sole values and tips regarding industry. I graduated TAFE in the Area 51 show in 2012. This was a huge show. It was probably about 25 to 30 odd students. It was highly competitive because there was a whole bunch of talented people in that class, and when I graduated, I was very overwhelmed. And I felt like I wasn't quite ready to go into industry yet. So I made the decision to go to curtain for the final year. And I don't know if it's knowledge, but if you do advanced diploma and diploma at TAFE, you get exempt for the first 2 years at curtain, which is 400 credits, and you go straight into final year at curtain, which is great, and it still happens to this day. And when I graduated at curtain, I graduated in the top 25 students, and it's called the filtered show. I don't think they do it anymore, which is good, because it's pretty precious. Now that class was, again, incredibly talented. People like Ryan Vincent, Tom Benson, Matthew Wong, who was a dear friend of mine, they were all in that class, so it's a bit like, how do I stand out amongst all these very talented people? It was incredibly hard, but I'm really glad I did both TAFE and curtain. TAFE is incredibly practical, good industry knowledge, you get actual industry people coming in giving you live briefs. While curtain is great for theory-based, I got involved in doing like studio photography, screen printing. They had a course where you had to design something within 3 hours and you were judged on that, so that taught you how to design fast. And overall, when I was getting into the industry, the feedback was great doing both. TAFE is, I guess in my opinion, superior a little bit, but there was definitely room and industry acknowledges both, and they do like seeing both. So there's something to consider moving on. Let's see. So after I graduated TAFE and curtain, and during that time actually as well, I should acknowledge that I joined the ACTA Student Council at that point as well. Throughout the first 5 years of my time in the design industry path, I was part of the design community, being part of the ACTA Council. I also became Design Kids host as well in 2015. This helped to really understand and get to acknowledge and see industry for who they are. I interviewed like crazy the first 6 months. I emailed, I called, I went to so many interviews. It was very incredibly draining. Interviewing is like a full-time job. You're constantly on the pulse, and I was always constantly told I was second, and that also really shuttled my confidence a little bit as well. But I ended up getting a in-house role at Racing and Wagering WA. That was there for about 2.5 years. That gave me a lot of insight for the design, the perspective of being on client side, which is amazing in terms of with agency, like you get agency perspective and you have to deal with a lot of big in-house businesses, but being on client side, you understand where they're coming from, what they're after, and really engage in understanding business and a brand, and that really helps with agency and studio life in the future. I was there for a while and ended up getting, I really felt like I wanted to be part of a design agency, because in my house role, I was the only graphic designer. I was the first graphic designer they ever had, part of a small marketing team, and it's great. It's been awesome being part of the client side, but I really felt like I needed other designers to bounce off ideas and really understand my design thinking and where I was coming from. So I ended up leaving and going into a small studio role, but unfortunately they lost 2 clients and I had to let go within 6 weeks, which is unfortunate and happens after at the studio. A small issue just loses at least 1 or 2 clients that really shakes them a lot, and they have to acknowledge and see where they can make up time and budgets and money. So I ended up getting a digital role at a place called Titan, and during that time I actually became co-chair of AGDA WA here in Perth with my good friend Hailey, who is still part of the AGDA Council at this point. Love him to bits. And Titan was great in terms of digital experience, being an actual big agency. So they had about, I think, 100 people employed. I mentioned that because they don't exist anymore. I was actually made redundant after a year after that role, and had to really fight my redundancy as well, but I'll get to that in a little bit. After that, I freelanced for a little bit, and in the end, my partner actually got a job at a really big engineering firm in Melbourne, so I decided I needed a shake-up. I needed a break from the Perth design industry because I felt like I'd given so much back, but I hadn't been accepted, I guess, properly, or really wanted a change. So I figured Melbourne's a huge city. It's a creative city. It's considered the creative hub of Australia in a way. So we packed up our bags and we went to Melbourne. It was great. It was the last 5 years hard, but also good. So we moved at the start of 2019. Again, I networked and I interviewed and spoke to a lot of people like crazy for the first 6 months, because I'd heard Melbourne was competitive, but it's not until you're there you don't understand how competitive it is. So like in Perth at the time, I think I was applying for jobs and I would ask how many people would be applying for jobs. It'd be like 80. And I'd ask the same thing in Melbourne and people would be like, oh, we got like 500 applicants or 500 to 400, and it was intense. So you're dealing with other great design schools over there like Shillington, and I think Billy Blue is still there as well. So there's a lot, the competition's high, so I networked like crazy. I ended up cold emailing 87 places and just, hey, I'm new to Perth, love to meet up, love to talk about the design industry over here, would you be interested in getting coffee? And I got about 20 to 30 responses, which is pretty high considering that was just a cold email as well. Met some great people. I ended up doing a lot of coffee catch-ups and talking to industry and networking through AGDA, which I joined over there as well because I thought it would be a great way to meet industry. Ended up being vice chair over there very quickly because they needed someone, and they're like, Hailey, you have co-chair knowledge, maybe you could do this. I was like, yeah, okay, why not? So ended up doing that, and yeah, I have a whole bunch of freelance work just from doing all those coffee catch-ups and being generally interested about the Melbourne design industry, which led to work at a place called DPR & Co. and places like Metronome, big design agencies over there. And it wasn't until halfway through 2019 where I got my first design role, which actually was in the digital role as a UI designer. Now that's something I haven't been trained in. I come from a graphic design, specialising in branding background, so going into a completely new space of the design industry was very overwhelming, but it was great. I learned so much about user accessibility, going from computer screens to mobile, and why that transition is so important, and bringing those graphic design skills to the digital space, I guess, excelled my designs a bit, because I didn't think of pixel to pixel. It was more like, how can we explore these designs and make them better, bringing that design creative knowledge that I've been trained up for in the digital space. Then, unfortunately, March 2020, I actually got a new digital role, and my first day was in Melbourne lockdown, the first day of working from home protocols, which was great. And then a month later, Melbourne, during COVID, a lot of studios and agencies went through a hard time. They lost so many clients. A lot of my friends were being made redundant, losing their jobs. I unfortunately became one of those people after a month. So, and then I looked for roles, but no one was hiring. No one at all. It was no freelance, no actual permanent roles. So I learned how to bake, I grew a veggie garden, I learned how to be creative in different ways. Because talking to a whole bunch of friends and myself during that time, we felt we couldn't be creative, we were drained, we didn't know what was happening. So I found other ways to be creative. But the universe answered halfway through COVID, and one of my freelance contacts contacted me, and they had a permanent role, and I ended up getting that, which was a lifesaver, and it was great. I learned a lot from them. And then at the end of 2022, I ended up getting a new role at a new agency, and that was after COVID, and then also at that time, my partner snapped his Achilles tendon, so it kind of almost went into a third lockdown because I had to look after him with a new role. That was fun. After all of that, after everything in Melbourne, we enjoyed our time over there. It's fantastic. I highly recommend if you have the opportunity to live in another city, to experience another city, how it works, how like people live over there, and just the design scene over there is fantastic. Don't regret anything at all. We ended up deciding that we miss WA so much. Our families are over here. The beaches are incredible over here. And we packed our bags and we drove across Australia and moved back to WA. But before that, we ended up taking 11 months off and travelling to 19 countries. This career break was so unbelievably needed. I needed a complete reset after, again, 5 years. It's crazy how things repeat themselves. I'm very fortunate to have a little bit of work during COVID, and that allowed us to build up and save money. Very privileged in that regard, and I know that people can't do this all the time. So yes, mini breaks are so important. Do recommend if you do ever have the chance to do at least maybe 3 or 2 months of just living and travelling. The knowledge you gain from different cultures and living amongst different people is unbeatable. It was uplifting. It was just brings me so much happiness, and I cry every time that I'm not doing it still. Ended up actually meeting my friend Hannah, who lives in Norway, and she was one of my Design Kids hosts here as well. So and I met up with a whole bunch of other people who were traveling at some time through my contacts with the design industry as well. It was highly beneficial, and I totally think anyone should do it if they have the opportunity to do so. So it's been 10 years since I graduated. A lot has happened, as you heard, and there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, but it's not all daunting. So my tips today are around finding work, doing the work, and charging for the work. This is like the progression that you'll get through industry. As this is more of a freelance perspective, but if you're looking for actual permanent positions, the same knowledge will apply to you as well. Finding the work. And probably the first step would be networking, right? Networking is very scary, especially as a student going in. Like, you're putting yourself out there, you're making yourself vulnerable. So how do you go about that? First tip is just don't put pressure on yourself. I think when I graduated, I put a lot of pressure on myself in thinking that networking leads to job. Not necessarily. I feel like networking is building relationships. Everyone actually hates it. Don't trust me, everyone does. But it's an unnecessary evil. I've listened to this really interesting podcast the other day from Christo, who does the Futura. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he interviewed this lovely lady, Lauren Grief. Her tip, and she specialises in networking as well. So her networking reference, which she says, she refers to networking as the broccoli of business. Something that is necessary, but is not particularly appealing. I actually like broccoli, so I'm going to say Brussels sprouts is the network necessary of business. It's both an art and a science. I also, again, felt that joining AGDA really helped, putting your face out there. As a student, you're kind of more doing all the small tasks, like being on the door and helping guests find their seats, but that helped you to make that first initial connection with the industry as well. So if you're, say, an AGDA rep on the door, you get to see the full list of names who are attending. You get to put their name to the face as well and have that first initial contact, and you actually get familiar with industry as well. Doing any form of design events. Design Kids being host really helped as well, because that initially helped me to email industry and be like, hey, I want to do this event, would you be interested? And actually helped bring my name to their attention as well. But Design Kids in particular is designed for bridging the gap between students and industry. They want you to meet industry. So I think it's Ross that is the host of Perth. I watched it from afar. He seems like he's doing an amazing job. He's really making an effort to bring industry to you and going to actual studios and seeing how they work, seeing the environment that they work in. Plus it's free. There's no excuse. You have to go to Design Kids. And ALUMNI, yeah, it was great. I think there's a little photo of Jules in there somewhere. So my overall tips would be kind of genuine. People can see right through the facade if you're not arrogant also. People hire people. They want to hire someone that will fit into their team. They'll actually make a difference to their team. You know, you might do good work, but you might also be not the greatest fit for their team. So they want to see who you are in networking events. But also, like, pay it forward. Remember that networking can be about helping others as well. So, as an example, I go to a networking event and the next day my friend in an agency is like, I need a freelancer to help me with this, Hailey. Would you know anyone? I'm like, yes, actually, I met this person at this networking event last night, and share details. It's that simple. Perth is relatively small and people know everyone. They will tend to go to their contacts over going on Seek first, and that's actually how I've found a whole bunch of interviews of late as well. It's just through contacts and not through Seek. My friend Rachel Boone, she actually used to work at Blog and Anthology. She's a great freelancer. I consider her the queen of networking in Perth, and I completely agree with her. Don't think of networking as a means to end. As I said, it leads to a job. Think of it as building relationships with people in your own industry and continue to build and foster those relationships throughout your career. I can't enhance this enough. So when I left Perth, I didn't really get to speak to too many people in Perth. And when I came back though, I still had those contacts. I still had those kind of contacts from my ALUMNI days, my Design Kids days. I reached out to them as soon as I got back and asked if we could just have a coffee catch up to ask about the industry. That's actually led to at least 2 freelance roles that I've gotten in the last couple of weeks as well. So I can't stress enough how important it is to think and be genuine about networking and just go in with an open mind. Just don't put pressure on yourself. Another aspect to networking would be coffee catch-ups and interviewing. So you've met someone at an actual event, you've gotten their details, they've asked if maybe you want to do a coffee catch-up and an interview. Now, this is incredibly important. When you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. You want to find the place where you want to work at. When I graduated, I felt like I needed a job ASAP to get the experience. I think everyone can see when you're looking at Seek, if for a junior position, everyone's asking for 3 years experience, but how are you supposed to get the experience when you don't have the experience and you're not given the opportunity? It's rough. So, and you wanna find your happy place, your place that you wanna be in for a while as well. So I always go into a whole bunch of questions for my interviewer going into an interview or a coffee catch up. So my first initial question is, why is this job available? This will tell me what the business is about. Like, is the job available because they've let go of someone? Is it available because they have actually gotten so much work that they need to do more hires? That's a positive thing, so that's a good thing to look for. Work culture. Does your team engage in group activities outside or inside the office? I want to know what the work culture is like, how the team interacts with each other, how everyone's going to get along, and general. I want to trust my team. That's what I look for in a design job opportunity as well. And in particular, of late, hybrid working policy, that was obviously quite big for me during COVID, but is the organisation flexible? Can you work from home? Like, I want to know if they understand and appreciate their employees and actually make the effort to understand their lifestyles and life commitments. And is there any training possibilities for career development, like one-on-one situations? Do you have budgets for online learnings to develop my skills as an employee, as a person? Do you do one-on-ones so I can build up my knowledge and my understanding about the role, what I can do better, what I need to do more to the team, for the organisation? Maybe I need to do more for aligning myself to the company values. And I always end with a coffee catch-up or an interview with what are your key priorities for the next 5 years? I want to know what the business is going to do for the next 5 years. Are they going to grow? Do they want to stay still? Because I want to be a part of a business that is looking to evolve and grow as the times change. And also, what are the next steps of the hiring process? I'm generally intrigued about what are the next steps. I need to also plan what I need to do as a full-time employee or / freelancer, because I need to work the time frame around what your processes are as well. But I also need to know how many steps there are, because there sometimes you might have like one interview, but there are places that will do, I think about the worst I ever had was 5 steps, where you had to actually do at least 2 design practices, meeting the design director and then meeting CEO and then team members as well. I need to know the steps, because if I'm a full-time employee or I'm a freelancer, I need to work my schedule around looking and applying for this job, because it's also a full-time job applying for jobs. And also remember, do a follow-up email. Just be polite, genuine and kind for their time, basically. I'll always send a form of email, so thanking them for the time and for the team for the time. I'll throw back to a topic that was discussed to actually say I've acknowledged the conversation, I remember it, and I took everything in, and also recognise what to expect from them. I look forward to hearing from them in the end of the week, or just making sure that you're holding them accountable as well. And always finishing off with a number so they can call you. They've already got your email, so you've emailed them, but a link to your folio as well, so you can remind them to an easy access to looking at your work as well. So you've got a job from freelancing and networking, great. What do you do now? This can be pretty daunting. There's a whole talk I can do about actual working at an agency or freelancing at an agency, but I'm going to trim it down to 2 points in particular. Something I've noticed that juniors do struggle with a lot going into industry as well. So my first point is quality insurance is everything. A lot of time, juniors will come in and they're not sure what to do, or not actually checking their work, but you have to check your work for so many reasons. Checking the design compared to the brief and making sure that you've hit your client's marks, you've done what the client has asked, but also just checking, make sure there's, the design is up to scratch as well. Spelling and grammar, like this technically isn't really up to you, but there's going to be so many times where a client will be like, I'm sending you content, can you just double check to make sure everything is okay? Literally happened to me last week. So just skimming your eye, making sure everything is aligned, because if you pick up something like a spelling or grammar mistake in your design, you go back to the client like, just as an FYI, this isn't quite right. They'll see value in you and your professionalism and the fact that your attention to detail as well, and your employee will as well. And ensuring that everything is print ready, and in fact print ready, because if it's not, and you've got a business card design that doesn't have bleed marks, or the text isn't outlined, unfortunately all of this is on you as a freelancer, because if you're a full-time employee, you have the backup of your actual organisation that you work for. But as a freelancer, it's 100% on you, because the organisation's bringing you into their organisation to help out. So you've almost got to be double make sure everything is okay. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do, but there is one safety net, and that's professional compensation insurance. That helps you and the organisation that you're working with, if anything goes astray, because otherwise you might have a hefty bill to pay if, say, the printing's gone wrong and you have to reprint or something. That's kind of on you as a freelancer a little bit. And that has happened to me back in the day. Another thing I've noticed is ask questions, don't be silent. Enough times I've seen maybe a junior designer come in and they get work, but something's not quite right. And I've gone, oh, like, why didn't you ask that question? They're a bit too shy. Always ask questions. Just don't hesitate. There's no stupid question. You're supposed to, how are you supposed to work if you don't understand the full context of things or understand the full brief? So just don't be silent. Your employee generally actually wants you to ask questions. It shows engagement. They should encourage it and challenging existing ideas. It's really important. You won't be seen as stupid, trust me. Employees will also see the value of hiring you and your expertise. Communication overall is king. Be open, transparent, and making sure that everyone is on the same level and they understand what is required of you and them. Now, you've done the work, you have just finished freelancing for the day, you've got to charge for it. But how do you charge? And as a freelancer in particular, you are everyone. You're more than colour and shape. You are strategy, you are skill, management, communication. It means that you're the business owner, you're open, you're responsible for your own tax, payroll, maternity leave, sick leave, annual leave, and you're in your main, you're also in charge of keeping communications going with clients and also trying to onboard new clients as well. You are literally everyone. So if you're everyone, how do you charge for that? I do hourly and fixed. So hourly I would do for going into a studio or agency, and fixed would be like something like doing just a business card design, just a stand-off design. So going into it, working out your hourly. Now this is just an example, but if I want to earn $50,000 a year. Cool, fantastic. There's about 2,000 hours a year, so 50,000 divided by 2,000 is $25 an hour. Great, that's your hourly. But I have forgotten something. You're a freelancer. 50% of your time is basically admin, management, and every painful email that you have to respond to. So I'm going to times that by 2. So my hourly rate is actually $50. Cool. Amazing. But I've also forgotten tax. You have to pay your taxes. And your super. So I would probably do 20% on top of that, and that would be $60 an hour. That is your hourly. I would also then, to work out my fixed rate, would be 60, say, times, it'll take 4 hours to do a business card. So 60 times 4 is 140. So that would be my fixed rate. But how do I exactly charge for that? So I apply the 50, 25, 25 rule. The 50 rule is 50% upfront, but before any work commences, 25% after a key milestone. So say after a logo concepts have been shown, that's when I'll do 25% before the rest of the work commences, and then 25 at the very end. Now, if it's for a small project like a brochure or a business card again, I would probably just do 50-50. So 50% upfront and then 50% at the end. If you are not confident that your client will pay you, I would suggest holding those final files before sending over until they pay you. Or if they've gone over the due date, just have it in your terms and conditions that you'll charge an extra 10% every 2 weeks that they are late. That holds them accountable, and they'll hopefully get their asses up and pay you. So, another thing in all of this is super, and as a freelancer and starting off, you kind of keep forgetting that super. You have to pay your super as a freelancer, that your super exists as an actual employee, and it's so bloody important. So at time when I was made redundant, I found out that everyone at that company was not paid super for a whole year. That's about $6,000 of super that was not paid. And the only reason why I found out is because it was not in my super account, but I had so much trust, and everyone had so much trust in the company that it was on our pay slips. So we just didn't think to actually check our accounts because it's on our pay slips. It was very sneaky of them. And it's important that you know this, just because the $6,000 after years of interest, and by the time you retire, actually turns into $30,000. So from that 1 year of not getting super, I've missed out on $30,000 in my retirement, which is massive. And it's very unfortunate, but so again, really highlighting that check your super account and pay your super. Very important. My friend Kirsty, who's also, she graduated here. She used to work at Human as a designer. She's now freelancing. Her little tip of wisdom, and I completely agree with her, is trusting yourself and building your skills, and don't undersell your services. You have the knowledge and the expertise. Clients are trusting you to lead and guide them through the process, and so show them what you've got. Now, I know that Ben and Marcus highlighted this in their February talk. I just want to quickly go over it as well. Free pitching, it's so not worth it. I know AGDA has a huge stance on this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in terms of, this also includes your family and friends. In free pitching, you don't do just because it will bring the industry down in the public eye. It'll degrade what we stand for and our services. Like, you don't hire a plumber, you pay them, right? The service, we're the same. We need to be paid for what we do. We've gone through the university, we've gone through the hard yards. We're doing everything as a freelancer. We've got to get paid. But family and friends, I've worked for free for family and friends before, and it actually can deteriorate relationships a little bit because you haven't set the bar to a certain standard, you haven't communicated, you actually need to do a little bit of money within their budget to actually, I guess, get the acknowledgement and appreciation for what you do as well, because they'll steamroll all over you. Well, some people in my life have, anyway. So in terms of resources for you guys, AGDA, I don't know if they still do this, I couldn't quite find it, but as a member, AGDA have great online resources for starting up. So they have a templated terms and conditions. I think they have a templated invoice as well. And that helps just to get your baseline level ready and working. Other helpful resources over time was obviously Design Kids. They have a great online platform of studios, references, freelancers, inspiration. When I was in Melbourne, a great business called the Design Business Council, owned by Greg and Carol, they are a great way of getting into industry and providing industry knowledge. They actually created this book, The Business of Design, which goes into really big depth about starting a business, a studio, and developing as a studio and agency. They also do breakfast networking events over in Melbourne, but they also do them here as well occasionally, so that's always a good follow on Instagram, I believe they are. Over in Melbourne, there's also the Design Ops, which is mainly in Melbourne and Sydney, but they do a lot of networking events, but they also have a great online resource for anyone to get into. So they have a lot of talks online that you can watch. They also have a great resource page for just links for people that they follow, other agencies and business resources. It's also the Australian Design Radio, which is a great way to hear from perspective of other agencies and studios. Made by James is a great Instagram account and also TikTok account that goes into the business of a freelancer and actually goes into the nitty-gritty of why you should do this, why you should do that. And same with Christo as well. He's great in terms of business knowledge. Another organisation that's not up there is PADC. They're amazing here in Perth. They have a great design council at the moment, and there's going to be great things from them, I think, as well. So that's me. Does anyone have any questions? But if you don't, you're more than welcome to email me or slide into my DMs.
I had a question. Do you find it quite easy to set up all your documents and just have a blank template for, say, like all your emails, all your invoicing, even like all your brandscapes, and then go into that and then start your projects off that? Because I feel like that's where I'm at the moment. I want to set up like a whole bunch of blanks and then pull that in each time. Do you?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, it just helps with time management as well. You don't have to set it up every single time. Just having every agency that I've worked with had a blank document that's ready to go. Presentations, invoicing, any form of internal documentation as well. It's already set up and ready to go. It takes a lot of time, but it makes the effort to do it. In terms of invoicing, I'm kind of currently doing it through InDesign, which is a bit of a pain. I would actually go through a company like Xero that's already set up, and it'll actually go and connect to your bank detail account as well, so it's automatically updated. You can chase up both tax and all of that as well.
And in terms of visibility, did you find when you were coming out of school, did you find that website was best, or what was like the key standouts, especially when with advanced yet? Looking at our grad show coming up, what's that? What do you feel like was the biggest standout?
Instagram is pretty big. I communicate with a lot of industry through Instagram, and people will follow secretly as well. Website is huge, especially for your folio. I think when I graduated, it was very much pushed for a physical folio, but these days, well, I've noticed anyway, I've been interviewing for the last 2 months, it's digital based. Everyone will bring up a digital folio. Everyone will, it's easy and convenient as well. But in saying that, for advanced diploma, it's still good to have a printed folio because that shows your print ready skills as well, that you'll understand and work with the actual like print management side of things. And people, designers love to touch and feel things, which is kind of silly, but everyone loves to feel a good business card and print folio as well. But in going forward, I haven't even looked at my printed folio in years. It's all digital, and website in particular is a big one because it's something that, yes, you can look on your desktop, but you can also look on your mobile as well on the go. And that's something that is great for industry because they're constantly on the go. They might not have time to look at something on desktop as well. Advanced form is daunting, especially the exhibition as well. Do you have to fundraise for it?
Well, I think we made some good money last year, but yeah, we will have a fundraiser.
Well, it's up for grabs at this point because the fundraising policy is also up for grabs a little bit at the moment with TAFE. So we're working through how we can do that, support you guys to do that. But there will be, like for the guys that are in Cert 4, that's diploma have an exhibition which used to be for fundraising, but we're still going to use it as an exhibition space. Great. And then that moves into diploma as well. So it is good fun. There is good fun in kind of getting family and friends and industry down to see your work, and you know it's great when you see them actually hand over their coin to buy it too. Like that's really satisfying. You think, wow, I did something good. So
I love that exhibition. It's so much fun to do, but it's also a great place for industry to connect with each other as well. Like they love coming to the TAFE Folio exhibition to obviously see great work and support the industry, but also they like to talk to each other as well. It's a good excuse to meet up. You'll find that design industry here in Perth are some of the loveliest people I've ever met, and they are so willing to help students out no matter what, but what they want to see in return is for you to make the effort to them as well. And that's probably number one. Like, email them, call them, say hello at industry events. Yeah, it's incredibly daunting, but you know me now. Just come up to me and be like, Hailey, I saw you at your talk. Can you introduce me to someone? I'll be like, absolutely, 100% I'll do that. And I'm also happy to look at folios as well and give feedback on anything. So please do email me and message me. I'm so happy to do that. I love this industry too much to not do it. And any other advice or talk, feel free to message me.
What's the hardest part of freelancing?
People, dealing with people. Sometimes clients just don't understand, but that's your job. You need to try. You need to be a storyteller to get them to understand where you're coming from, why you've designed something in a certain way. As an example, I'm currently dealing with a friend who wants their logo bigger on a business card, and I'm trying to get them to understand that you kind of want it a little bit smaller here, so it allows your contact details to stand out because your logo's on the other side as well. But that's probably the hardest thing, is just dealing with people and coming into freelancing and actually just in the design industry, just not aware how business headed the industry is. Like, 50% of your time will be out there marketing, talking client liaison, and things.
That's great. Thanks, Hailey.
No worries, thanks.
That's just an amazing snapshot of kind of where you guys are through to industry, and it is a I can second everything that Hailey's shared with you. I've walked a similar path, and everything rings true to me. So they're really wise words that you've heard. So this is Simone. So we're just going to hold you just for another 10 minutes because we have an amazing creative opportunity for you. We do want you to spread that word a little bit with the people that aren't here as well. We'll be handing out flyers. So just before Simone speaks, I'll introduce you to Kevin. Well, you stay up here, Simone. So Kevin up there, who Simone knows and mentored as well, he was one of our Aboriginal students from a couple of years ago, and he did some letterpress work downstairs around the NAIDOC theme at the time, which was and always will be. He's gone on to create his own studio and now services some of the biggest clients in WA. So his studio is called Nani Creative, and you can just Google that and that will come up and you'll see what he's doing now. So it wasn't that long ago that he was sitting where you're sitting, and now he's out there doing it, which is amazing. So he came and explored the NAIDOC theme of his year through the letterpress studio, and he actually sold those as artworks out there in the world as well. So he sold some of those prints at a stall. So what we're trying to do is to just ignite some more knowledge and passion and understanding, I suppose, around what the NAIDOC theme is, and giving you guys the opportunity to come and do a letterpress activity downstairs, open to everyone, and explore the NAIDOC theme under Simone's guidance and with her cultural backing and knowledge, and it's open to everyone. So it's an amazing experience. But what I'll do is just, Simone's just got a short presentation so you can understand a little bit of what we're trying to do. And then from next week, that letterpress studio will be open for you to come and create some artwork using that beautiful type and that beautiful space, but engaging in that understanding of, the original people that lived here before invasion, I'll say that. There you go. Yeah, so I'll just hand this over to Simone quickly. I'll present live.
All right. Okay, Kaya, everybody. Thanks, Hailey, for the acknowledgement. So I'll just briefly tell you a little bit about me. My name's Simone Penny, and I'm a Noongar from down south. I've also am a graduate from TAFE. I did my advanced diploma in fine art here, and also a Curtin graduate also. So same. Anyway, I'm now starting up my art career. It's been a long time. So and I've just realised, you have to keep up your skills. I mean, basically, my Photoshop, it's really terrible. I have to redo it, and it's a little hard. But keeping up your skills is another thing that you need to keep up. So the NAIDOC. Does everybody know what NAIDOC is? Yeah, I'm sure most people have been to NAIDOC events, and is it just a click? I'll just do it from here. Okay, so the NAIDOC basically was formed from the day of mourning, and it's a little bit of history. You might want to have to go and check the website, the NAIDOC website. So it's was formed and became the National Aborigines and Islander Day of Observation Committee, and it's usually run for a week. It's a national event, so we have that committee, and they all will organise the theme, the dates, and there is a poster that comes out every year, and a lot of First Nations people participate in this poster competition. As you saw with Kevin's work, he did that theme of always was, always will be theme, but there's been other themes in the past because of her, I can't remember them all. But anyway, they've done a lot of themes in the past. So each city will have, it will be a national selected event in the city of their choice. Usually it will go around every capital city. Every state will have their own NAIDOC awards, and that's where we have and celebrate the achievements of First Nations people. So yeah. So the theme this year is called Keep the Fires Burning, Black, Loud and Proud. Is it Black, Loud and Proud?
Yep.
Yeah.
Keep the fires burning, black, loud and proud.
That's right. So the theme, the fire represents the enduring strength and vitality of Indigenous cultures passed down through generations. Despite the challenges faced, it symbolises the land and to each other, and it's a rich tapestry of traditions that define Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So we honour this flame, and we kindle the sparks of pride and unity, igniting a renewed commitment to acknowledging, preserving and sharing the cultural heritage that enriches our nation. So Black, Loud and Proud encapsulates the unapologetic celebration of Indigenous identity, empowering us to stand tall in our heritage and assert our place in the modern world. The theme calls for reclamation of narratives and my mouth is dry. Of voices and an unwavering commitment to justice and equality. It invites all Australians to learn and encourage in meaningful dialogue, fostering a society where wisdom and contributions of Indigenous people are truly valued and respected. So I've got a video here about the theme. I don't know about the sound. I won't make it too loud. Oops.
This NAIDOC week, ignite the flame of culture. Keep the fire burning, black, loud and proud. Celebrate our resilience, unity and pride. Light up the sky with heritage. Keep the fire burning, loud, proud and brilliantly black.
The need for Aboriginal land rights. 800 million have lived and died here. Democracy in this country is not dead, and it is being exercised by the Indigenous people.
Today we stand not really in the centre of our continent, but at its very heart.
as Tim said, it will be a project that will be done at the foyer where the yellow wall is. And, well, we've done a little bit of the NAIDOC history and the theme and the purpose. It's like, it's open to everybody, and I think the idea of having it open to everybody, you know, we'll do it with the reconciliation action plan, where we'll be inclusive of all cultures, and it's about learning Aboriginal culture, because a lot of people here do know about Aboriginal people, but they don't really know about Aboriginal culture. And I mean, like, for example, in my class, when I do teach at community services, we look at the diversity of Aboriginal people, and then I'll get them to do a little exercise, and the exercise is to find an area and look at the cultural protocols and look at the language there, what protocols they have within the land, and it's like they're discovering a new country. It's about, like, they don't know how to speak the language. They don't know anything of, like, the cultural protocols. You go to another country, for example, and you go, oh, I'm going to Bali, and I'm going to try and find a little bit of information about Bali. And you learn the language, you learn what you can do, you wear your lap around in the temples. You know, you learn that you can't do this, there's men's and women's business, all this kind of stuff. It's exactly the same with Aboriginal culture. And it's like, we've got a foreign country in our own country. And that's why I'm very passionate about this, very passionate about people learning about our culture. Because, you know, you can say, oh yeah, I know about, you know, the Noongars here. Well, some people don't. And as I said to Tim earlier before, you know, I classify Tim as an ally. But, you know, Tim's journey, he's on a journey of learning about Aboriginal culture. That's what I want for you guys to come and participate in this little exercise. It's, I'll be coming into the class. There will be another guy, his name's Jake, and he'll be coming in and assisting with Tim. Is it yourself?
I
Tim
can't
or
be
Brendan?
there next week. Brendan will be there, but there'll be a staff member there, yeah, kind of helping with the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my background is, I did a Bachelor in Fine Arts, but I did, a lot of my work was print, so, and print media, hopeless Photoshop, but, yeah. So basically, I've done a lot of printing, and you know, when you're doing typography, that's another form. It's actually the same as printmaking, really, but yeah, we do it with images. You do typography with letters. Yeah. So if anybody wants to join me, and Jake and Tim, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks Simone, appreciate it. So, you know, I see this as an amazing